Hello! Welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. Since I talked about villains last week, I figured I would talk about heroes this week. That's kind of a touchier and trickier subject. As a writer and a game master, villains are kind of my purview. You start with a villain, you plot based on that, and boom, story or game, module, adventure, what have you. Heroes, as a writer, heroes are important. Heroes are clear-cut and defined. That's your protagonist, generally, is a hero. As a game master, though, heroes are in other people's hands. You may have an NPC that is heroic, but if you're running the game right, the player characters are in control of the heroes. Whether they are doing it right or not, whether they are earning the title or not, those people on the other side of the table rolling dice and laughing at your monsters are heroes. So, what is a hero? Protagonist is the main character in a story. It's the person who's going through the adventure to reach the conclusion. Hero is another matter entirely. I would put it to you that not all player characters are heroes, because there are some very definite qualifiers. I'm not going to pretend I'm not looking at my other screen over here anymore to read my notes, because my memory is just not that good. According to the dictionary, a hero, a person who is admired for great or brave acts or fine qualities. A person who is greatly admired, or I'm going to tweak the dictionary's definition here a little bit, the chief character in a story, play, movie, etc. Where it kind of gets a little confused, the protagonist, but in a movie, a story, or a play, protagonist and hero is kind of interchangeable. Not so much in an RPG. I'll get there. A more full definition of what a hero is. A mythological or legendary figure, often of divine descent, endowed with a great strength or ability. Hercules. It's one of the most clearly defined examples we have of a hero. Perseus, all the old classics. It's broadened out a bit, but that's our classical definition. An illustrious warrior. I like that definition, and I don't, in that an illustrious warrior might be a hero, but you need not be a warrior to be a hero. A person admired for their achievements and noble qualities. One who shows great courage. We'll get to that. The principal character in a literary or dramatic work. Central figure in an event, period, or movement. An object of extreme admiration and devotion. We're starting to see commonalities show up here of what people are referring to as a hero. They're that person who has phenomenal qualities and does things with them that makes them be admired for their qualities. You can be the strongest person in the world, but if you have all this strength and you sit in the basement reading comic books and eating Cheetos, you're not a hero. It's the use of that strength, the means to which your phenomenal qualities are put, that makes the qualities of a hero. Wikipedia puts it a little bit differently. A hero is a person or character who, in the face of danger and adversity, or from a position of weakness, displays courage, bravery, or self-sacrifice, that is, heroism, for some greater good, a man or woman of distinguished courage or ability, admired for his or her brave deeds and noble qualities. The term hero is generally and classically considered to be masculine, the female form of that being heroine. I prefer to use hero for either or all genders, because if you're a hero, you're a hero. You engage in heroics. You have qualities of heroism. You're a hero. That in which every time I call a female hero a heroine, it just, the mental associations go directly to something much less associated with heroics. Hero, across the board. As a game master and a game designer, it is key and necessary in an adventure, in a setting, in a game, that you provide opportunities for heroics. This is not to say that all of the characters in your games are going to be heroes. Not every player character is going to be of those qualities that are going to step up to the bar. That is, if your player characters understand what a hero is and what a hero does. Someone who effortlessly beats up any monster they come across has some heroic qualities, but is not necessarily a hero. It's the reason I like the Wikipedia definition better than the dictionary definition, because the Wikipedia definition talks about in the face of danger and potentially from a position of weakness or disadvantage. People argue about the qualities of the character of Superman as a hero, because arguably Superman has very few actual challenges. Theoretically, he could beat just about anything, but the writers over the years have come up with ways that the character of Superman is actually challenged. He has weaknesses that need to be overcome. People come up with ways to put Superman at a disadvantage, to make it difficult for him to be a hero. It should be noted that I believe a hero hasn't really met their heroic qualifications unless they have been severely disadvantaged and have had to face superior opposition. This is one of the points of a role-playing game, one of the points of storytelling in general. It's also one of those things that your players may or may not rail against. You know, why can't I be strong enough to beat up absolutely anyone ever? Why can't my character be tough enough to resist damage no matter what tries to damage him? Why can't I be invincible or invulnerable or omnipotent? And some rule sets allow you to be that. But then, where's the heroism? I walked into this fight knowing with absolute certainty I was going to walk out victorious. Now, having a confidence like that is desirable, but is it heroic? Is it more heroic than, I stand every chance of dying in this fight, but I'm going to get into this fight anyway because it's the only way to stop people from getting hurt? I went back to the Mythic Scribes to look for the qualities of a hero. I like their list. I might add to it again. According to them, a hero is courageous, having a quality of courage. Bravery is important. It's also important to understand bravery. There have been efforts in comic books and heroic literature over the past few years, decades, to define their hero as the man without fear, or being actually fearless. This person doesn't have any fear in them. They're obviously qualified to be a hero. I would disagree. A person who has no fear in them is a psychopath, and not someone you generally want trying to save the world. Fear is not necessarily a bad thing. According to Doctor Who, fear is a superpower. We're designed to work at a more efficient level when we are afraid. Going back to an older Doctor, the third Doctor, John Pertwee, in the episode Planet of the Daleks, I think he said it best. Courage isn't just a matter of not being frightened, you know. It's being afraid of and doing what you have to do anyway. Courage isn't not having fear. Courage is what you do with your fear. A hero isn't unafraid. A hero's courage flows from facing something that they are afraid of. It's facing something that they have a reasonable or unreasonable fear of, and doing what they need to do anyway. Overcoming a challenge from within, that being their fear. Because that challenges the qualities of the hero. A character who has nothing to fear is denied the ability to be a proper hero by the lack of that fear. A hero is skilled. Some of the most famous heroes in science fiction literature and in comic book literature are known for their incredible skill sets. The Shadow, Doc Savage, Batman. Superman is constantly displaying new skill sets, things he learned because he had to, or he had the time, or he just wanted to be a little bit more on the ball about things. In classic science fiction, in the writings of Doc Smith, he would put a great deal of time into describing the skilled and educated qualities of his heroes. One of my favorite bits in the Lensman series comes long before any of the characters receive their lenses. It's when a galactic patrolman by the name of Conway Costigan is going undercover as a miner, and in the face of a failing water pump during a mine disaster, looks at it and says, "You call that a water pump? I could swallow a handful of iron filings and puke a better water pump than that." That is a level of skill you want to see in your everyman, solidly founded hero. Yeah, maybe he's a little specialized in one area or the other, but damn, if he can't fix something that is broken and has a general knowledge about the situations he finds himself in. A skilled hero is a prepared hero. A skilled hero is never afraid of learning something new and is constantly trying to keep their skills up, on edge, trained, educated. Bilbo Baggins is a skilled hero. A lot of it comes from the talent of hobbits generally being easy to ignore, but he knows how to read maps. He knows how to read maps. He is a learned scholar of sorts, so that when a contest of puzzles comes along, he's got riddles in his head that he can throw. He can work out logic puzzles and understands arcane writings because he is well read. A hero is skilled. A hero is sacrificial. This is not to say that a hero is going to give up their life to end a great evil. This is to say that a hero is willing to give up their life if that is what it is going to take. It is not suicidal, it's sacrificial. The understanding that the life of the hero is less important than the goal of the hero. And so you have a heroic goal, which is generally the preservation or saving of life or society, then, yeah, sometimes you take that hit. Sometimes you understand, I have to suffer, I have to hurt, I may have to die to get this done. There's a classic Japanese movie. It's been remade a lot. The movie is Yojimbo. You have seen at least one movie based on this movie. Whether it's Fistful of Dollars, Last Man Standing, or Omega Doom. You've seen some movie based on the original Yojimbo concept. Wandering adventurer gets into a town. There's bad guys on each side that are fighting each other. He decides to turn them against one another to make a profit. At one point, he is captured, disadvantaged, and gets the crap beat out of him. Having had the crap beat out of him, but knowing that there is someone still in danger that needs to be rescued, the hero sucks it up, gets over their injuries, trains himself to fight again with the injuries that they've got, and goes and saves the person who needs to be saved. Heroes do what heroes have to do at the cost of the hero, if that is necessary. Heroes are destined. I'm not 100% sure about this. I like the destined hero archetype. Obi-Wan wasn't hanging out on Tatooine all that time for his health. It was because the son of Anakin was eventually going to grow up to a point where he would need to have some training for his Force abilities. Now, Luke was going to be Force sensitive no matter what. He was going to have a job to do. Son of Anakin, that's just the way it was. Bilbo Baggins lived a life of sitting back and reading other people's adventures. But he had a history, a family history of great adventure and accomplishment that was going to express itself in some way at some point. He went on an adventure. It was almost destiny. The 14th number, the lucky number. And if Bilbo Baggins had not accompanied the dwarves on their quest to reclaim the Lonely Mountain, Smaug would not have been defeated. Dwarves might not even have made it to the mountain. He was destined to be there. Superman was sent to Earth by his father because the Earth was the ideal place for him to go. Because Superman, the last son of Krypton, was given a destiny by his father. Go to this world and guide them. Show them what they can be. A lot of the great heroes of our time have destinies. Some of them don't. Some of them just don't. I like the person who has a purpose in their life, their family, their history, their past, all leading up to, I have to do this. But then there's just the guy who's in the wrong place at the wrong time. But he understands something's got to get done, and I'm the guy who's here. That's almost Batman. Bruce Wayne, depending on which version of Batman you go with, was not necessarily predestined to become the Dark Knight. He was the person whose parents were killed in an alley pointlessly and realized this can't be allowed to go on. This crime cannot be allowed to consume the city. Justice has to come to these people. I'm going to dress up like a giant bat and scare the piss out of the criminals. The hero who accidentally finds themselves a hero is one of my preferred archetypes. A guy who is just standing around, maybe even someone who wasn't supposed to be a hero. Someone who spent time as an assassin or some other form of criminal, maybe a former villain who, right place, right time, gets an epiphany that something's got to be done, and shit, I'm the person who's here to do it. So, destined is an optional quality of a hero, I would say. And then there's wounded. I disagree. I disagree that a hero must be wounded. Wounded is a great way to give a hero motivation. Don't get me wrong. Superman lost his planet. Batman lost his parents. Barry Allen got hit with a lightning bolt in the lab full of chemicals, and now he can run at the speed of light. So, maybe not so much. A hero may become wounded. A hero worth his salt, who is sacrificial, is going to put themselves, and unfortunately, those who care about them, in a certain amount of danger just being a hero. And, yeah, wounds are going to happen. But does that person need to be necessarily wounded in order to be a hero first? A villain needs to be wounded. A villain needs to be wounded bad enough that they've got the malfunction that they're a villain. A hero? A hero is someone who just realizes this has to get done, and I'm the person here to do it, and if I don't do it, it's not getting done. That's not the product of a wounded personality. That's the product of a dedicated personality. That's the product of someone who understands that everyone is part of the same continuum, that people are interreliant, and the world is made up of these things called people, and that when someone starts to step on top of someone else, someone needs to step up and make it stop. That's not being wounded. That's a good upbringing. That's someone who has a proper respect for humans and humanity and personhood. A dark hero needs to be wounded. A tragic hero needs to be wounded. But your average hero, on the whole, I don't think so. Dedicated. Or, better yet, empathic. I'll go that one. I'll take wounded off the list and I will replace it with empathic. A hero has to understand the pain of others. Because without understanding the pain of others, they don't have that motivation to end it. And that's what a hero does. That is what a hero does. A hero ends the pain of others, even villains. A proper hero will save the villain. The villain will use that against them, and the hero understands that's going to happen, but what's he going to do? Let him fall? So that's, in a literary sense, what makes a hero. How do you translate that into a player character? In the immortal words of Will Wheaton, don't be a dick. Dickishness is just a lack of empathy. Well, I would like to see this person upset, angered, or even hurt to some degree, because I find that amusing. That's what villains do. That's not a heroic quality. Everything else can kind of flow from that. You have the empathy. The empathy can start the whole thing. Courage, skill, the sacrifice, it's all that's the level of dedication that you get from how far you're going to follow that empathy. You can put it on two axes. How empathic, how dedicated. And the more empathic and the more dedicated, the more heroic your player character is going to be. I'm not going to let that person suffer. Not that I'm personally against making a villain who has been properly played as a villain suffer a bit. They have earned it. A hero at the far end of the dedicated and empathic scale, up there, where you put the stamp on the envelope, that is the hero who doesn't want to see the villain suffer. It's kind of Batman. That's kind of we're going to take the Joker back to Arkham and hope that this time he gets cured or he stays in. Even though insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. No one ever said Batman was sane. The most heroic characters I ever played is a Jedi. He was not a regular Jedi. He was not even, in many people's estimation, a serious Jedi. He went by the name San Shan-Ru, and he had been trained by a crazy person. The crazy person was Force sensitive and had at one point in time been a Jedi, but when he was training San, he was completely off his friggin' rocker. San was not insane, but he only had the insane practices of his master to go by. So he would say, I need to meditate to become one with the Force, and then he would shriek at the top of his lungs and crack plates over his head. It looked crazy. It was a crazy practice, but San was actually pretty serious. From the very beginning of the campaign, Star Wars Saga Edition, terrible system, great campaign. My friend Mike Shields runs a hell of a game. Shout out. There was a bad guy. I believe his name was Glaive. Half the party had history with him and were going to kill him. More than they were going to kill him, two of the Force-sensitive members of the party approached San at different points and said, I'm probably going to have to turn to the dark side to defeat Glaive, and I want you to bring me back when I go. To which I would encourage them to not fall to the dark side to begin with, because you're not going to get that much stronger if you do, but these were people who really wanted their characters to fall to the dark side at some point in time. There was a lot, and the first time San met Glaive, it was laid out to him very clearly. Game Master turns to me and goes, if you get in this fight, there will be no heroic end, there will be no last stand, you'll get cut down, it will be insignificant and mean nothing, you'll just be another death. So San ran, and ran well. He had developed enough evasion techniques, running away from people throwing rocks at him. Over the course of this campaign, Glaive turns up at inopportune moments, and there's going to be a fight, and there's a fight, and Glaive takes a piece off one of the PCs, and we manage to get away. It's a recurring theme over and over again. One of the reasons that the other Force-sensitive characters kept coming to San and asking him to pull them back from the dark side should they fall fighting Glaive. In the meantime, San was being kind of funny and cracking plates over his head, and every time we got experience and every time there was character advancement, I dropped points into my martial arts and my defenses. I went kind of overboard with it. I really stocked points into my defensive martial arts. A lot. I didn't get in many fights. San found his way around fights. Followed the Bruce Lee tactic of practicing the art of fighting without fighting. Got very good at tactically avoiding combats and disadvantaging enemies so that they wouldn't end up in combat. At the same time, he was practicing to become very, very good at defending himself. There was a bit of temporal reallocation. There was some time travel involved. It turned out to be a major plot point, to the point where one of the villains was going to steal the Death Star the moment before it was destroyed. It was a good game. It was done really cleverly. All the bad guys were lined up on the bridge of the Death Star ready to do the time jump. A bunch of us followed them back in time. The way the time travel had worked and was working, we entered a loop, a personal loop. So, yeah, we traveled back in time, but not past where we already existed, so there were two of us. And it had already come out from the time travel technology that if you go back in time and meet yourself using this method, you go crazy. San wasn't about to risk that because he didn't want to lose his actual control. So, bridge to the Death Star. Everyone else has sabotaged the time gear, so the Death Star is not going anyplace. It's going to blow up. History says so. Done. And everyone was pulling out, and I realized the bad guys had a chance of escaping because time travel. And so I told everyone else, go ahead. I've got something I have to do. San marched into the bridge of the Death Star full of bad guy. And as everyone started to pull their sabers, I pointed at Glaive and said, no. Him. I'm here for him. The rest of you got all bugger off. I'm here for him. Glaive looks at San and says, you? Really? It's going to be you? To which I responded, I'm tired of my friends throwing themselves at the dark side to beat you. So, let's go, son of a bitch. It ends now. I was not a better fighter than Glaive at that point in time. But I had impenetrable defenses. I did not fight Glaive to beat him. I fought him to a standstill and drew him deeper into the Death Star so that when it blew up, there was no chance he was going to escape. Neither was that version of San, but it was worth it. Game Master gave me a Neil Gaiman quote. Just because something is funny, that does not mean it is not also dangerous. Heroism isn't something you can write down on a character sheet. There isn't a set of qualities or statistics or merits or flaws that you can write down on a character sheet, point and go, there. This character is a hero. No character, no matter what their background, no matter what their abilities, no matter what you claim their history to have been, is a hero until they are played heroically. Again, it's easy enough to make a hero if you're doing all the writing. If you're creating the villain and the hero and writing the scenario because the hero is going to do heroic things. A player character is not a hero, by definition, unless they're played as a hero. You start every session with, well, our intrepid adventurers, and you might even go so far as to call the player characters the heroes of the game. But you have to draw the line. Yeah, someone can call themselves a hero, and if it doesn't matter as far as game mechanics or the background of the game or how the society is reacting to these characters, the person who never does anything but collects the gold at the end of it, or stacks himself behind so much armor that they can't possibly be hurt and then rolls over the bad guys, is still technically a hero. But you want to get some conflict going. You want to demonstrate to someone that there's more that they need to do. You want to light a fire under a PC. Demonstrate to them what a hero is. Show them what they've been doing and ask them if they measure up. Maybe, just maybe, it's pushing things a little bit far. Everyone's sitting around the table to have fun after all. You don't really want to be making judgment calls on what someone is doing for fun, but if they want that character to be a hero, they better play that character as a hero. There may not be any consequences, but they know and you know. And as a game master, lighting fires under people is what it's all about. At the end of that game, years down the road, if you've done the game well, people are going to be telling stories about it. People are going to sit around the table, pass the Coke around, and start talking about, hey, remember that time when? And if those people at that table, rolling dice against your monsters, have played their characters as heroes, those times, 5 or 10 years down the road, when you share stories, they're better. Trust me, they're better. If you like this video, feel free to like it, share this video freely and openly, broadcast for signal, boost. Subscribe, if you like, to these videos, and be notified when a new one comes out. I try to do them once every week. Sometimes I throw a little something extra. If you really liked this video, I would invite you to visit my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/DeCorum and consider donating. Everything helps, and it will allow me to produce more videos and game supplements and hopefully help people to find some heroism on their own. In the meantime, thank you for your time and attention. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me, and I'll see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.